Hello, and welcome to my live talk. This is Jennie Walker. Welcome to my channel, JennieGirl's Closet. And I actually had two people waiting. It's a first for me. So I'm so excited about that. It is Friday night, and I'm here in my home showroom, and I'm going to tell you all about how I have made $15,000 on Poshmark. And I'm really excited because actually I'm up to like 15,530 something. And that's after the fees. It's around almost 20,000 in sales that I've had. And before I started this live video, I went in and pulled a sales report to kind of get some data because numbers don't lie, you know. So I was kind of shocked, but yeah, I just want to go over how I made $15,000 so far. My plans to double that this year, and yes, in this 1 year, that's my goal, is to make $15,000 in this 1 year or more. And I feel like I can do that without a problem. I'm going to tell you why. So the reason I got involved on Poshmark was because I'd been an eBay seller and my sales had really started to slow. eBay instituted a lot of changes in 2018, and it affected me personally and my business. Basically things came to a screeching halt, and I could not figure out why, and I was kind of starting to panic. Because I can't fix the changes in eBay, and so I have to adjust to them. So I said, well, I guess the next best thing is just start listing on another platform. So last year I became really focused. But the first year I joined Poshmark a long time ago when it first came out, and I did not sell or get active on it until 2016. My first sale was a Rolling Stone t-shirt, and so I pulled up my stats. I want to share that with you. So in 2016, I sold just a couple of items, and I made $80 gross. And so that would be $64 to me after the 20%. So I made $64 in 2016 on Poshmark. I was just, playing around. I wasn't taking it seriously. I just put couple things on a hanger on the back of a door and just left it there. So in 2017, I made $208 on Poshmark. So that's about $166 to me. Not a lot of money, but I did sell a few more things in 2017. But 2018 was really the year, last year, that I really got serious with Poshmark. I did all of the things to become a Posh ambassador I needed to do. And I just really decided, well, if I'm going to be on another platform, I'm going to try to master it. So that was my goal, is when I went in there, is how am I going to master the Poshmark platform when I don't know anything about it? And what's interesting is it's been around a while, and I'm kind of like late to the game, really just starting to use it last year seriously. But that's okay. It doesn't matter. So in 2018, I started listing a lot of inventory. I started all of the things that I needed to do to become a Poshmark ambassador. I did achieve that. And as my followers grow and as my sales just started to happen, and I really started to be active on the platform, I became more and more confident that this was a really good option to eBay. Now, in 2018, I made about $10,000, $9,679. So that was $7,743 to me. And that's a lot of money to me for a platform that I didn't know anything about and was really trying to get my head around. Well, in the first 3 months of 2019, I've already made the same amount of money at $9,649, $30 difference in 3 months after 1 year total in 2018. So I've already made $7,719 in the first 3 months. Well, if you do that times 4, That's like what, $30,000. So yeah, my goal was to double my income, my total income so far on Poshmark, and I can do it if I keep this up in 2019. And I think that for a secondary platform, something that I'm trying to use in addition to eBay, I think $30,000 in a year is a lot. Is a lot. Well, Nike Boxes is here. Hey, we missed you last night, and I'm trying to get on a little bit earlier. It's still not early, but 30 minutes earlier than yesterday. So yeah, I am talking a little bit about how I made the money on Poshmark. So appreciate you being here tonight. So anyway, going back to my stats. So I think it's really extraordinary to watch the sales build. And, becoming a Poshmark ambassador was really key, in understanding that I had to be active on this site is really important too, because I didn't. Well, I'm glad you're dropping by. That's good. I appreciate you dropping by even for a minute. Nike Boxes, thank you so much. Nike Boxes in the chat there, so if he wants to say hey, and I will type a hey, hello. There we go. There we go. Glad you're here. So that means a lot. So I appreciate it. Yeah, what am I doing on a Friday night here? Well, clearly this Friday night is the home night. So I'm not out this Friday night, but tomorrow's a different story. So got to take my opportunities to go live when I can. So anyway, so on Poshmark, the momentum is really huge for me, and it's taken me a while to really figure out what I need to do to be successful on the platform. In addition to having about 85,000 followers now, and that is something I've worked very hard on doing, is to build those followers. And to me, followers are like the old catalog you used to get at home. It's like an email and a catalog all in one. So it's a way to alert people, to what's new, what's happening, what's going on with your closet. And so my goal is to hit 100,000 here in the next month or so. And that'll be a nice milestone for me. And of course, I'll eventually want to hit 1 million followers. But you got to crawl before you walk. And I've had some following strategies, such as following back every single person that follows me, following people who are ambassadors, following people in my city, in Pasadena, LA area, following people who are selling brands similar to what I'm selling. That's a really good one. I follow everyone that wins awards on Poshmark, where you get an email. Maybe they were a heavy sharer. That they have all these little competitions, and they'll tell you who's done it. So anybody who's active enough to win an award is someone I want to follow. I follow all of the people that have Posh parties, all of the people that are involved in their Posh Fest. I followed the CEO, just everyone who's involved and really active on Poshmark that I become aware of, I follow. I follow the people who host the parties. And a lot of those people have a huge number of followers. And again, the more active you are, the better things seem to be. Now, the platform is very different from eBay. It's apples and oranges, and we could all talk all day about why they're different, but I think it's important to say that I've had to adjust my selling in order to be successful on Poshmark. So the whole idea of sharing your closet, it's exhausting. There's no question. But until I get a couple of million followers, I don't have a choice but to use their system and do the recommended things that they have to get my items out there. I'm having really good luck selling high ticket items. I sold a $1,200 pair of boots, a $900 pair of boots, a $1,200 coat, $750 dress, $700 shoes. So what that tells me is that in addition to the $12 t-shirts and the $25 jackets, that there are customers out there that are willing and able to pay four figures for things. And I'm happy that I can appeal to all of those people. And one of the ways I think I'm being able to appeal to a wide range of pocketbooks and purchase capacity is that I am curating my closet for one particular girl. And my goal is to curate my closet for the same girl at different ages and at different stages of her life. And therefore, her capacity to invest in clothes is going to be different. So what I'm doing now is curating my closet so that all the clothes seem similar. It is not complete. There are a lot of things that I'd like to just take out of the closet and not have in there, but I'm just going to sell through them instead. So I'm trying to appeal to this person so that when they come to my closet, they know what they can expect, a certain type of aesthetic, a certain type of clothing. So the same jacket, for example, a tuxedo jacket that I'm very successful selling, I will have the same jacket by Forever 21, by H&M, by Black House White Market, by Gucci. So it's the same type of fashion, but different fabrications and different price points. And that really seems to be working. And it's thrilling to sell the same item over and over again by different brands and at different price points, because that tells me that that item is highly desirable. So I have sold a significant number of cowboy boots, floppy hats, tuxedo jackets, for example, luxury goods and luxury shoes by Louis Vuitton and Chanel. And so when I analyze what sells, I don't just look at what brands sell, I look at what type of items sell, what is this actual item, so that I can find it and look for it at different price points. So if it's a tuxedo jacket that's going to keep selling for me, I'm going to keep looking for the best ones I can find at every price point and by any brand. And so that seems to really be working for me. My girl, as I've tried to describe her in order to be able to find the fashion, basically my girl is me, so it's not that complicated. But what she likes to wear is something that is artistic, it's creative, she stands out, she loves travel, she loves fashion, she loves good fabrics, good design. And so I've tried to put all of these traits into the things in the closet. So you'll find a lot of solids, solid colors, solid black, solid white, tons of black. She loves black. And I sell a ton of black. So just when you think nobody's buying any black clothes, if you go look through my solds, I can tell you that, most of what I've sold is black. Black dresses, black tops, black jackets, black pants, black shoes. And so there is a customer for that. So I shy away from too many loud prints or florals, things like that, although I do have some in there. I'm more about having something artistic. So behind me just happens to be a great example of my girl. So this is a biker jacket. I sell biker jackets all the time, whether it's on eBay or Poshmark. And this one is super cool because it's cropped, so it's different. It's linen, it's white. It's got really cool like gold zippers, all on it. And now this brand is one I don't recognize, and I can't even tell you who it is because it's a symbol rather than words for the brand. But this is a typical kind of piece that I sell over and over again. And when I style people, I constantly am pulling the biker jacket. A lot of artists that perform on stage and have video shoots like that. So in my Poshmark closet, I'm always looking for the biker jacket. Always. I've sold $14 biker jackets by Forever 21. I've sold $1,000 biker jackets, that are leather, like say by Ralph Lauren. I've sold every kind of biker jacket on eBay, and now I'm starting to sell them on Poshmark. And so this style is something I just look for. I look for it at every price point, in every possible modern configuration, because I know I'm going to sell it over and over again. So that is something I'm always looking for to be successful on Poshmark, is to fine tune the items in my closet. Now, I have not done any boutique selling on Poshmark. And I think what I'm going to do down the road is, since my JennieGirl brand is one I own and have trademarked, when it's time to do boutique, I'm going to have my brand in the boutique, because I don't need to be, the 100th person selling a black floppy hat from the same wholesaler as everyone else. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make me stand out. So That is something that I will look into later. But yeah, Poshmark. Oh, hold on. I see people in the chat. Let's see. Cindy Rosen, hello. Thrifty Christie, hello. I think you just subscribed. Thank you so much. And Flippin' Hustler, holy cow. Flippin' Hustler, did you get these people to come join tonight? That's awesome. Hello, Flippin' Hustler. Let me tell you, Flippin' Hustler is one of the most supportive people I have found. He was the first person to ever find me live on YouTube, and he felt sorry for me. And he told all his friends to come join, and look, he's done it again. You are so cool. You're a cool dude. Of course, I can tell that by watching your videos. So you're confident, cool dude. So I appreciate it. Hope you don't mind me calling you dude. A cool guy. So I don't mean any disrespect by that. But anyway, so Poshmark is trending. I find myself with a new strategy on there to continue to reach my goal of 30 to 50,000 this year on the platform. And that is, I have lower priced items that I sell quickly. So something like this jacket back here that's not too expensive. The goal is to sell things around the average price point of $40 to $50 on an ongoing basis. And then every so often I'm going to get the big hit, the $1,000 jacket or the $700 pair of boots. I had someone who bought a pair of boots today for $500, but their credit card was declined. So we'll see if they make good on that. But, it'd be great to sell $500 shoes every day. I don't actually have that many $500 shoes to sell. But the big expensive pieces that are, really, really meant to do a couple of things. And that is to let people see the range of what's in my closet. But it's also to, it's like a lost leader, if you know what I'm talking about. So I put things in my closet to draw people in, whether they buy them or not. So if I have a $2,000 skirt on there by Alice and Olivia. It is incredible. It's something that probably will not sell on Poshmark, probably sell on eBay, or I'll sell it to a private client in my showroom. And I've had people already ask me about it from Instagram. But the point of having it is on Poshmark is not to piss people off. Because I find that whenever something really cool is really expensive, people always comment about it. Like, how dare you put it at this price? And you know why? I put it at that price is because someone's going to buy it, even though it's not them. And there are people in the world who will pay a premium for really interesting pieces. So it's like a lost leader. So whether or not anyone ever buys this $2,000 skirt from Alice and Olivia in my closet, it gets them in there and it gets them looking at what else I have. And so a lot of the luxury things in there, I have $1,800 necklaces by Chanel, which I probably should raise the price now that Karl Lagerfeld has passed, because I can tell you in my consignment shop, the day it was announced that Karl Lagerfeld passed, we sold a Chanel suit that immediately, no questions asked, full price. And then for the next 2 weeks, it was all Chanel. We're like cleared out of Chanel in our store. And so I know that the value of these really expensive things can change. And whenever a designer passes, when Azantina Laya passed, we sold clothes that day by that brand. When Karl Lagerfeld passed, obviously all the Chanel was selling. And anytime a coveted designer passes, those items become immediately sought after. One, because people's awareness has been raised, but two is you have collectors. And that is something that resellers tend not to talk about because maybe it's not their experience. But my side of the business works with people who are archivists. And we have mailed $1,000 pants over to England to be to a collector, or we sold a Jeffrey Bean dress the other day for a museum exhibit. And it was very expensive, like almost $1,000. And so when I talk about people buying and paying a premium for items that I have on Poshmark, it doesn't mean that that person is going to buy it on Poshmark, but somewhere, somehow, whether it's on eBay or Poshmark or through a private client, someone's going to pay that for this item. And a lot of times resellers don't understand who would be willing to pay that. And you can get a lot of criticism for listing something expensively because the people who are seeing the listing don't understand why you're asking that. And it's because you know something that they don't. And whenever there's a museum exhibit, I'll give you an example. In my Poshmark closet right now is a Thierry Mugler bustier. And it's priced at $1,000. And the question is not why does it cost $1,000? The question is why is it worth $1,000? And you have to know that Thierry Mugler has an exhibit going on right now in London, England. And in that museum exhibit, they are showcasing his legacy, his whole career. And this designer is known for his shapes. I guess the Jessica Rabbit shape. It's like this shape, and then his bustiers. He was the one who did motorcycle bustiers with motorcycle handles back in the 80s, where the supermodels were wearing them. And these bustiers that were probably one of a kind for the show are part of this exhibit. So you have to know your designers, and I don't mean you have to know, the hot designers like Gucci. You have to know historically the designers, because if you don't, then you're missing out on an opportunity. And the same bustier that I'm selling for $1,000, another posher had put one up at $350. And I tried to buy it, and before I had a chance to pay for it, someone else came in and bought it. And because I knew at $350 that it's worth $1,000 or more, and that would be a great deal. And unfortunately, I didn't get it. But this person wasn't trying to sell to the collector. She wasn't trying to sell to the person who understands what this is. She was just trying to sell something at a really nice price because she knew it was a nice piece. But she missed the boat knowing that there's an exhibit right now and that people will pay $1,000 or more for something like that. And so I think as resellers, you have to understand when it comes to pricing, there's so many factors involved with archivists and museums and people who look for the rarest pieces in the world. And if you think of a site like First Dibs, where it's the rarest and the most expensive of what's out there, where do you think they get this stuff? From resellers just like us who don't know any better. And they are selling to a very different customer. And you too can sell to that customer if you know what you have and are educated about it. So I'm going to look in the chat for a minute because I just need to take a breath. Let's see who's here. Misha Renee, thank you for joining. Let's see, Misha, how long have you been selling? Misha, I said earlier in the video, I started selling in 2016. I sold 2 things and I made, I'll go over that again. I made $64 my first year on $80 worth of sales. In 2017, I made $166 on $288 worth of 208 sales. And in 2018, I made $7,743 on $9,700 worth of sale. And in the first 3 months of this year, I've already made $7,700 on the same amount of sales. And there's huge momentum in my closet right now. And a lot of that has to do with kind of understanding what it takes to be successful on this app. And it's labor intensive. And as a result, my eBay store has really fallen to almost zero. I mean, it's almost not even moving. As a matter of fact, tonight I put in some new sales on my eBay store just to breathe new life into it because my Poshmark is just taken off. And so the momentum that gets built over time on Poshmark it's palpable. And, I'm at 85,000 followers, but the reason I'm at that is I'm thinking about growing that follower base all the time. And I'm constantly following back those who are following me. I'm constantly on the app and engaging. And so the only way to be successful in Poshmark is to be on the app like a video game. So if I'm standing in line at the post office, I'm sharing something. If I'm waiting in line at the grocery store, I'm sharing something. If I'm sometimes at a stoplight in my car, I might take a peek at my phone and share something, even though I'm not supposed to. So, you have to be on the app. And, I've got a new assistant, and one of the things she's doing is helping me share my closet. And I don't have specific times in the day to do it. I don't have a schedule. I basically do it as I have time. And being on the West Coast, I'm missing so many of the buyers on the East Coast that, by the time I wake up, half the day's over. So what I do is I share whenever possible and whenever I can. And if you haven't been to PoshFest or listened to the seminars that Poshmark put on their Facebook page from PoshFest, you're really missing out on some good information, because I think a statistic I heard was 18 million listings a day, new listings. Now, kind of wrap your head around that. 18 million listings new a day, or shared a day, or something to that effect. And you've got your little closet of a few hundred listings or whatever. Now, how are you going to stand out? And the way that I figured out Poshmark is it's just like the Matrix with zeros and ones. That's all it is, zeros and ones, right? It's constantly changing. The minute you log on, it freezes, right? And in that moment, if you've shared something, your item is going to be at the top of someone's feed. And that's why you have to constantly share, because every second, I imagine, someone new is putting themselves onto the Poshmark app for the first time. And so you're constantly trying to catch the new eyeball. And, Poshmark doesn't allow you to use any kind of service. And I understand why they're trying to keep the playing field level. That would automate this. They are literally keeping the playing field level by forcing you into a situation where, to be competitive, you have to physically share or find someone to physically share your closet, end of story. Or you have to grow your follower base so large that people on their own are finding, because you have just so many followers and so much inventory to choose from, that they're going to find your closet in that way, and building up, your community of people who are looking for what you have to sell. But when you look at the statistics, 5 million sellers, 18 million listings, and growing. I mean, how does your little listing stand out if you're not doing anything with it? Sharing it on social media, sharing it on Facebook or Twitter, or sharing it around. I mean, you really have to do that. And I've also recognized that a lot of people who are doing very well on Poshmark have a YouTube channel and a YouTube following. And while I think the most of the people probably listening to me now, or who would subscribe, are more interested in the information than buying in my closet, I do think that there's a significant number of people who want to know about things first. And to know about something first, if you've got a reseller doing a haul video, then you're going to know about something first. And people who are trying to collect things or find things that are rare, they really want to know what someone has first, particularly resellers who don't know the value of what they have. And I've watched resellers, say, oh, I found this Max Mara coat. I got to do my research because I think it's valuable. And they end up selling it for $150, and they're so excited. And the same coat sells in my consignment store used for $1,000. And if you don't know that, you're leaving $900 on the table because you don't understand who that customer is. And I think the most important thing in selling, whether it's on Poshmark or any platform, is you have to educate yourself beyond the fact that I got to do my research because I think it's valuable. Well, you know what? There's all kinds of levels of research. And looking at comps is the last thing that I do when I do research. I look at what's the retail price, the original retail price. How old is it? Who's the designer? Are they considered a historical designer, award-winning, a collectible designer, things like that. You really have to understand. And you leave money on the table when you don't. For example, maybe you may or may not have heard of Judith Lieber. And if you don't know, Judith Lieber is a handbag designer that is known, or was known because she's passed, for handbags, clutches, evening bags with Swarovski crystals all over them. And she became popular because I think maybe one of the original people carried her handbag was someone famous, like a first lady, for example. So she was asked to create these handbags, and over time she manufactured them in mass. But in the beginning, she made them one of a kind and by hand. Well, what you don't know is that there's a museum, the Judith Lieber Museum, and their whole goal is to get every single bag she ever created. And what I mean by that is, before they were mass produced, where it was one of a kind, they're trying to get those bags. And where it was mass produced, they're trying to get at least one of those. So if you don't know that, you might get a Judith Lieber bag and be like, oh, it's nice, put $100 on it. The last Judith Lieber bag I sold, we put up on eBay, and it sold for like $1,500 in 10 minutes. And when it sold for $1,500, I'm like, I should have priced it higher, because I knew it was special, and it was special. But I probably could have gotten even more for that bag. And the consignor pretty much just thought she had an old evening bag she remembered going to dinner with her husband back in the 90s. I mean, and so people don't even know what they have. But you have to know this stuff in order to maximize your profits on Poshmark and any other platform that's out there. And I have a lot of working knowledge that a typical reseller wouldn't have, because of just years and years in fashion. And I don't mean just like working in a retail store. I'm talking about buying and consuming luxury fashion at Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, Bergdorf Goodman, Barney's New York, Chanel boutiques, Versace boutiques. I am that person who paid full price for that item. So if I paid $3,000 for something and I see that for $1,000 somewhere, that's a bargain to me. If I see that thing for $100 somewhere, I think this is ridiculous, right? So that customer who's paying a premium is the same customer who probably bought it new at full retail at some point in time. I know in my consignment shop, the people who don't think anything about $1,000 on a handbag, $750 on a Balenciaga handbag, are the same ones who buy it full price in the department stores or in the boutiques. It is not this person who's never bought a luxury good in their life, who's been pining for one, who suddenly shells out $750. This is not how this works for me. So maximizing your profits on Poshmark or any other platform comes down to truly understanding what people are willing to pay for stuff. And I think the challenge is for people who've never bought a luxury item. The challenge for them is to sell a luxury item at a high price when they've never done it themselves. And I think the most important thing you could do is educate yourself. Go spend time walking around a Saks Fifth Avenue or a Neiman Marcus. Go walk around the most expensive department store you can find, and look at those shoppers and look at those price tags. And you will get sticker shock. You'll be like, what? $600 for this blouse? What? $1,200 for a pair of shoes? Exactly. So if you know that, and I'm not talking comps, I'm talking retail pricing. If you know what that thing costs in the beginning, you will not be shy to price it high, because you'll find that buyer who understands what that is. And so I have made, as a reseller, so much money off of people that have no idea what they have. And I'm not even talking just resellers online. I'm talking about consignment shops where I spend $50 on a pair of black velvet parachute pants made in Paris with the tag on it, and I go sell it for $700 to someone in Japan. But you have to know what it is and who would be willing to pay that. And if you don't have the answer, you got to go get it. So the most important thing for resellers to me is you have to understand who your customer is. And your customer is not the low baller that you want to target. You got to find the good stuff that people are willing to pay a lot of money for and pay a premium for. Now, I despise the phrase pay up, so you won't hear me use it. I like to say pay a premium because that's really what you're talking about, is why is someone willing to pay a premium for something? It's because it's rare. It's because it's collectible. It's because it's the designer just passed away. It's because it's quality. It's because it was handmade. It's because it was a limited edition. It's because something happened that changed the landscape for this thing that nobody knew about. And suddenly it's hot again, you know? And so I think when you try to price in your Poshmark closet, is that you don't always want to go for the lowest common denominator or the lowest price possible to move it. And the way to kind of hedge your bet is you have to have 2 sets of items and play around with it and have those items that are going to turn for you quickly. Just move it, right? It's like basically operational funds there. But then you've got to have some of these really quality items, and you can test yourself if you've never done it, where you're willing to say, I'm not selling this for less than $300. I don't care, right? And test yourself and watch yourself attract that buyer who's going to pay that. Now, it has to be worth the money you're asking, but so many people are missing an opportunity by not educating themselves on what those brands are that people are willing to pay a premium for. Matter of fact, the $1,200 coat that I sold, or I think it was $1,125, it's by Donna Karan. And maybe you don't know who that is because she stepped down from her label. But she was the woman who created the turtleneck bodysuit with the cold shoulder and New York style. And her pieces, just like Norma Kamali, if you don't know who that is, some of her early pieces are so valuable. But again, you got to follow the designers. And that's a set of knowledge that you're going to have to get somewhere else other than YouTube to be able to answer those questions. So let me look in the chat because I need to breathe. So Perla's Precious, hello. Misha, Flippin' Husson. Hey, Thrifty Christy. Hey, I really appreciate all of y'all being here. And I hope I'm helping you understand how I made money on Poshmark. I didn't wake up with $15,000 in sales, but it built. And if you look at my stats, it built in 2018. That was the year I made ambassador. That's the year that I, worked on that platform every single day, building my followers, sharing my closet, and trying to figure out what sells. The Posh sales report, it's important for people who can't remember. I got a really good memory, so I don't follow it as closely as I could because I pretty much remember what sells and what doesn't. But it's important to get your, average price item up. And the way to do that is to start sourcing some things that are much higher. And I'm talking much higher price. I'm not talking going from $10 to $50. I mean, you need to find some items that are hundreds of dollars and start practicing selling those. Misha, thank you. Now, if y'all have any questions, please let me know. It's like when you go, you try to go whale watching and you don't see any. The way to see whales is to go deep sea fishing. So on my Q&A last night, asking questions, nobody asked me any. So since I'm talking about Poshmarks, maybe someone will ask me questions today. But yeah, I just, Poshmark is just one platform. I'm about to start on a new one called StockX. I'm going to just putting it in there, stockx.com. They only carry 19 brands, and they started with tennis shoes and like athleisure wear, like hip hop kind of stuff, urban wear. And now they do watches, handbags, and small leather goods. That is the next platform. They only take 19 brands. and they'll only sell something that's brand new or almost brand new. So they're very limited. But I met with their salesperson a couple of weeks ago, and they gave us some insight on that. And they plan to expand the number of brands, and they plan to expand from only taking new items into things that are more slightly used. Because without doing that, they're not going to be able to grow as fast. So, so one of my strategies is not only to do much more on Poshmark, and one of the ways I've been able to grow and get a lot of feedback is I did a lot of branding. My logo that you can see here on YouTube with the little girl's face, the young blonde, not girl, but blonde face, says JennieGirl's Closet. That is a trademarked brand of mine. And I created poly mailers. I created little buttons that go on every single piece. Someone gets a JennieGirl's Closet button. If it's something that won't take a button, there's ribbon that I wrap through, and then I put the button on that like you've won a prize. So everything I'm doing to kind of create a community of people who want to follow the brand and the progress of my closet is through the branding as well. And so I spend money I don't have to. I do not do little notes. I don't do, I don't do the things that awesome Flippin' Hustler does. Like he just I think he puts magic into every box, which is awesome. But what I do instead is I put the emphasis on the branding, the packaging, so they can see the label and see the logo and remember the logo. And that's my goal. And over time, what I plan to do is move away from any USPS box. Right now, I use the boxes wherever my poly mailers will not work. But my goal is to use plain boxes and move away from that branding of the post office. And then I will, and that is money that I don't need to spend. Nobody needs to spend that money when it's free. But because the more important aspect of that is the branding and to get people to remember JennieGirl's Closet and that logo, what it looks like, that's the point. That's why I spend money on that. And to me, I think it's money better spent on your branding than things that are inside, like gifts, free gifts, because every free gift I've ever gotten on Poshmark, I redonated. I can't think of one thing I used except for a miniature nail file that someone sent, which is cute. But yeah, that to me is not the best use of your time or your money, and to figure out your branding. So, for example, maybe you don't have a logo, and you're wondering what Thrifty Christie, well, she has she already, look how cute that is. She's like Bewitched on there, but let's pretend Thrifty Christie didn't have Bewitched on her stick there. You've got to figure out what, you have to figure out what your brand is. What is your logo? I mean, maybe it's nothing but a picture of you that someone puts a cartoon filter on and makes something of that. I mean, if this is something that's more than a hobby for you, you've really got to think about treating it like a full-fledged business. And there's a lot of videos on how to do this on the fly and do it really cheaply. And I think that's terrific for people who are starting out. But if you've reached a certain point and you're ready to be like, I'm going to do this full time, I'm going to put everything I have into this and make it a full-fledged, functioning, high-quality business that's going to grow and expand, I think you've really got to be mindful of how much people notice the packaging, the branding, and things like that. And ask yourself, do I know some kid some kid in college who'd do a free logo for me? If I buy a pizza, find some sort of trade, find some way to get somebody who's like in design school, who would do something for you. And there's so many ways to get things done for free that I don't accept the reason that, I'm doing it because I can't afford it. I think that is false reasoning. I think that the most important thing you can do is determine if you want to do that, and then figure out how to do it at the most cost-effective way. Flippin' Hustler, any suggestions for a logo for me? Asking everyone. Well, Flippin' Hustler, I'm going to think about that and get back to you, which I have learned the easiest way out of a question a man asks you is to tell him you're going to think about it, because that's what they do. They think about everything before they answer. And I tend to just shoot from the hip. So I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to think about it because I think it's a great question. And there's probably something really cool that you could do. I kind of like, let's talk about Flippin' Hustler for a minute. And I've watched him a few times on his live videos. What I think is really cool about him is his hairdo. He's got like the coolest hair like ever. And it's not something you see in a regular day walking down the street in Pasadena, is that kind of hairstyle. I mean, it's like, it's either I'd call it a regional hairstyle or just super funky, cool hairstyle. And I think that is something that you could play up and exaggerate for some sort of cartoon version of who you are, for some sort of logo, because it looks like from the picture on your right now that I'm looking at and then seeing you live, and it seems like that's something you've probably been your signature for a long time. And so I think you should play that up. Now for me, like I have dimples. So my JennieGirl, which was based on a photo of me, has dimples. And so that's just, and obviously blue eyes. So it's something that is unique to me. And I think everyone should find out what's unique to them and play that up and see if they can't get a logo made. Woo! My favorite drink. Coke did not sponsor this video, just so you know. When I was little, my mom, we lived in Georgia, Columbus, Georgia. And if you know anything about Coca-Cola, the Pemberton family created the formula of Coca-Cola in Columbus, Georgia, not Atlanta. And so it was a really big deal when I was a kid living in Georgia, the whole like Coca-Cola, empire and things like that. But at one point, my family bought stock in our RC Cola. And so they banned us from drinking Coca-Cola. And I had to drink RC Cola. I was so upset because it did not taste the same, which is why it did not survive. Although I do think they still make it in small places in the United States. Let's see. Good deal. I will have to study on it and come up with something good. Awesome. Yeah, I think everybody should think about it. RC, me and my RC, me and my RC. Yeah, I'm breaking out into song. My first live video, Flippin' Hustler had me, we were singing and talking about my album on iTunes and my stand-up comedy. It was awesome. See, Misha Renee agrees with me, Todd. You got to do something with that hair. It's awesome. It's an awesome thing. Yeah. I think playing that up would be fantastic. So I think another thing to talk about is not just how did I make money on Poshmark, and I'm doing really well, and I'm very, very excited about that. Is another thing I've started to do is to source differently for Poshmark in order to make more money and to be able to accept more offers. Now, when I first went to Poshmark, I was using my eBay inventory that I already had. These were things that I sourced primarily online, also from consignment shops. And the bulk of the inventory came with me from New York when I moved to the Pasadena area, where I had purchased a huge amount of inventory at a Barney's New York warehouse sale during the last 3 days of the sale, where everything was 75% off, the 75% off. So basically it was free, But I remember I bought 65 pair of shoes, and I bought clothes, luggage. I bought everything. And I remember the shoes would be like $20, $30, $50. The most expensive shoe I think I bought was like $100, an Azantine Elias shoe. And then I ended up selling that boot for $700 or $800 on eBay right away. And so you have to understand, if you're going to source luxury, you got to go where it is. And what I've learned is some of the worst places to buy things is like an outlet mall. And some of the best places to buy things are the last phases of a warehouse sale and sample sales. And that's where you're going to probably find some luxury items that are going to be affordable enough for you to try to buy and resell. And if you think about it, if you buy enough $11.99 or $7.99 shoes at the Goodwill, you're already, you buy a 4 or 5 crappy pair of shoes with toe prints on them that are in good condition, by the way. That cracks me up, is when people source a shoe from the Goodwill and they'll tell you the 10 things that are wrong with it, and then they'll go, but it's in really good condition. No, it's not. It's in terrible condition and you shouldn't have bought it. So, but by the time you spend, $10 on average for a pair of shoes at the Goodwill, you could have just bought one decent pair of shoes and sold them for hundreds of dollars and been done with it. And so people have to train themselves to spend more money to make more money. And I think you have to ease your way into it. The reason I was able to buy all this inventory at the warehouse sale is a parent, my father had died, and I had a big inheritance, although I'd rather have had my father around for sure. And I had the ability to spend $6,000 at this warehouse. I wasn't even planning to do it. Like, I went to the sale and it just happened to be the last part of the sale. And I'm calculating, my gosh, this shoe is $20 and it's, some designer. My gosh, this thing would only be $50 and it's some ridiculously expensive designer that would be like $1,000. And so I basically did a mental calculation. I said, this is an opportunity. This is opportunity cost. Wasn't planning to spend all this money, but look at this. And so I bought 65 pair of shoes, a bunch of clothes, not too many clothes, because by that time in the sale, a lot of those clothes had been cleared out. And then I came back the last day of the sale and bought them. I think I went like all 3 days. I went back and in total spent about $6,000. And I made my money back really quick. And I'm still selling that inventory all these years later. Boots that I'm, sell for $700 that I paid maybe $75 for by Margiela and things like that. So if you go into my Poshmark closet and you look at the very expensive shoes I have, the Margiela boots, for example, not the Louboutins. The Louboutins I did buy, Christian Louboutins I bought at Neiman Marcus at the outlet over Christmas. But the other ones, like the Pradas came from the Prada outlet. They were basically free. They were free, but they were really cheap. But anyway, if you look at those things that are in my closet, that's where I got them. And it takes a minute to sell $1,000 shoe. So this is the thing you have to do, is you sprinkle in these really expensive items among all of these lower price things, and you let the lower price items churn and burn, just churn through. Take lower. And I mentioned earlier about how I was sourcing differently. So I don't have the luxury of sample sales here in Pasadena. I don't have the luxury of the Barney's warehouse sale here in Pasadena. I've calculated, and it's worth my time and money to fly to New York for those and source there. But what I do have here is the Goodwill bins. And I went for the first time ever in December of last year. And when I went there, I didn't know what to expect. But what I realized is that my same eye for luxury could be applied in the Goodwill bin. So I have bought Florentine and Baker boots. You can see my Poshmark closet. I think they sold for $200. Then I must have paid $2 for them. I sold a red leather bag. I paid $1 or $2 for $200. I've bought a bunch of stuff at that Goodwill bins where I've paid so little that I can easily take an offer. Like I took $15 on a pair of pants I paid 50 cents for. So what I learned is that if I know I've paid a very small amount of money for it, I'm very okay with moving it at a lower price point and not holding out. And so you have to be able to source in a way that is so inexpensive. And buying by the pound is the least expensive thing I have ever heard of, short of getting something for free. With that model, if you're very selective when you go in and not buy things you don't need, you can use your same eye to get some really good stuff that you can then replenish your closet with and have more and more things that you can sell at a lower price point to keep the money flowing, which is what I have done. So right next to, so again, it goes back to the concept for my closet. I have the $14 Forever 21 bomber jacket I sold. I paid $1 for it. And so I was okay selling it at 14 because I knew it wasn't going to sell for much anyway. And then the same one, I have at a $500 price point, right? And I've got one at $1,000 price point in there. And so the idea is to source the same look for the same girl in as many price points as possible and keep it turning and keep the closet consistent. Let's see, Todd, everyone seems to think it's about your hair. I think that's awesome. Yeah. So what else did I do on Poshmark to grow my closet? I grew my followers. I became very active. I curated my closet. Now, for a while, I did my closet by color. Everything white was together, everything red was together, everything black was together. And then I got so busy with other things that I couldn't keep it that way. So it's actually kind of a mess right now. But the other thing I started doing was changing how I did my photos. My first photos on Poshmark were a hanger on a door. And you can tell the early photos because they are a hanger on the back of the door. Then I graduated to a mannequin. So this mannequin here, and then I have one for pants, the one behind me. I had those at my consignment shop, so I pulled them home. And once I pulled them home, I started using those on a blank wall. So that was the next phase. No, the next phase is pictures with this pink painting behind it. So this is my latest because a lot of the clothes, because I don't have a professional studio set up for lighting here yet, although that's on my list, the clothes are not coming through the way I want to. I mean, they're kind of clean, but they're not clear. And so I find that my clothes pop more when I put this pink in the background. So if you go to my closet and look at these photos, you can tell the difference in how they look against a background like that. So what I'm going to do is share my closet with anyone who cares here in the chat so you can check it out and kind of see the evolution. Again, this is not in any order right now. It's not by color. It's an absolute mess. But if you look through, you'll see the hanger on the door. You'll see the mannequin next to the door because I moved apartments to create this showroom. So I had actually 4 iterations. The hanger on the door, the mannequin where you can see the door jamb, the mannequin against the blank wall, and then the mannequin against the pink background. So those are the 4 iterations of photos. Now, my goal is to eventually replace this in the back with my JennieGirl's Closet logo that you see up here in the corner. And then that's going to be the hallmark in all of my photos. It's very expensive to have what I want made created, which is why I have not done it yet. But I have a bid and I have the supplier who will do that. But that'll be the next iteration. And that way I can brand my closet and help it stand out and not have to worry about, people I don't have to watermark if I do that. Although I have had people steal my images before, which is pretty unsettling when that happens. But you prove your case and you move on. So the photograph, my phone is blowing up here. Let's see what's going on. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay. Our eBay photography session just ended at the consignment shop, and that is the alarm going off telling me all of that, that they have left the store. Yeah. So yeah, so what else on Poshmark? Really curating your closet, the photos. We've talked about sourcing at really great price points to give yourself a lot of margin to take offers. We've talked about sourcing for luxury. We've talked about educating yourself on luxury brands and how to do that. And one of the things I want to share with you is if you don't have access, if you don't live in an area of the country that has one of these luxury department stores in there, I would recommend going online to the websites for these stores. So for example, let me see, I will give you some links of where you need to go to study. And what I would do is, I didn't spell it right. Oh goodness, y'all watch me type. Here we go. So Bergdorf Goodman is owned by Neiman Marcus. And if you go to designers that they're highlighting, designers A to Z, or the ones that they're highlighting, those are the hot designers right now, because websites always highlight the hot designers. So go to this website to see all the most expensive fashion in the world available right here online. And Bergdorf is owned by Neiman's. They pretty much get the same stuff, but a little bit differently. Neiman Marcus is excellent. For edgier designers, you need to go to Barney's, New York. This is where you're going to get your Japanese designers, like new designers coming on the marketplace. A lot of classic designers. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that's the same one. Sorry about that, guys. Let me get Barney's down here. And I would go through all of these websites and look at these clothes and look at what they cost. And chances are you've got some of these brands right now in your inventory and you've been busy looking at comps. And I'm telling you, that is not the way to do it. You need to look at the retail price, and you need to know that that Max Mara coat is $5,000 new to somebody somewhere. And what I want you to understand also is that these shoppers that spend $5,000 on a coat, these are some of the richest people in the world, like Bergdorf Goodman and Neiman Marcus. They all ship all over the world. It could be somebody in some oil country somewhere that owns half the world. It could be, you know, some Duke in England who's got more money than he can count, and his wife's buying something. You have no idea. There's a lot of people with a lot of capacity in the world, and it may not be me or you, but it's out there. And these stores would not survive if somebody somewhere wasn't paying this. And so when you go through these websites, look at how much this stuff is. Like, go under Valentino, go under Gucci, go under any of the brands you want to look at, and look at the ones they're carrying and look at how much this stuff is. Like, it'll be a shirt, a silk blouse for $2,000 by Alexander McQueen, for example. And if you don't know that, then you don't understand that you shouldn't price it at $50. You know, you've got to understand that it's not just about what other people are selling it for. So I'll give you an example. We had an Alexander McQueen blouse come into our consignment shop. And this is when we first opened, and I was really I was, you know, learning. And I took one look at this thing and I said, I don't know what this is. It's special. I know it's expensive. I know it's expensive because it's silk. I know it's expensive. It's silk crepe. I know it's expensive because it's Alexander McQueen. I know it's expensive because the design is like runway quality. And I couldn't find the same blouse anywhere. And I didn't do an in-depth research at all. I just went, I don't know, it's at least $700. I put like $700 on this thing. It literally sold in 5 minutes. And I found out later it was from a collection while Alexander McQueen was still living that was highly popular at the time. And I can't remember the name of the collection. And this blouse is actually in our Instagram for my consignment shop, Walker Viden. And you can see it, this black gauze drapey, I don't even know how to explain this, but it looks like there's flowers like hanging off this thing. It's all black. And you can see it laying on a white quilted bench. And the reason I knew it was underpriced, even at like $700, is because it sold in 5 minutes. And that's an example of the people who are literally trolling eBay and Poshmark and The Real and ThreadUp and Vistari Collective. They are literally trolling all day long with push notifications, with their own volition, trying to find the rarest of the rare for sale by people who have no clue what it is. It could be museums, it could be stylists, it could be collectors. There are plenty of collectors in the world that love Alexander McQueen that aren't in a museum, that aren't, they're just private collectors that covet the brand. So, and I'm someone who collects vintage Moschino, and I've paid almost nothing for some of this stuff. And I've paid a premium where I knew it was rare and hard to find. I have yet to overpay for anything, but I've paid a premium, meaning no matter what I paid, I knew I could make money on it. So when I say a premium, it could be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars for something, $800, $500, but it's something that I know that I can get double or triple my money for. So I'm not afraid of that. But where I have paid almost nothing for stuff, I'm like, who are these people who don't know what they have? Because someone like me is going to snap it up. And I just have a different knowledge set. So the vintage Moschino I get is it's just a thrill. The hunt is just fantastic. And I'm always on the lookout. But more often than not, I'm not paying a whole lot. And it's thrilling for me as a shopper. And it's terrifying to think as a seller that you don't know what you have. You know, it's like when I was really a young girl and I would organize my mother's yard sales. We got to do 2 a year. So that's how many the city of Columbus, Georgia would allow. And these antique dealers, you know, resellers, we're like the modern day antique dealers. So these guys would come to the sale and they had this knowing, you know, this knowing look. And like they're staring at you, really like with this glint in their eye, about to pay you $5 for some rare Tiffany lamp or something. And I used to see this look all the time. And I studied it, and I knew that these antique dealers were picking, I mean, I'm like 18 at the time, you know, they're picking things and they're going to resell them for 2, 3, 4, 5 times the price. And, you know, we sold plenty of things that we shouldn't have at prices because we didn't know any better. And this has never changed. This has never changed. People are never going to be fully aware of the value of what they have unless they're some sort of specialist. And so the average person just can't wait to get into the Goodwill or get into a yard sale or an estate sale because we know they don't know what they have. Because if they knew what they had, it'd be sitting there at Christie's auction house, right? So, you know, it's just another part of it. Ooh, nice. Wealthy Farmers' Wives. Excellent. Well, Flip and Hustler, let me know if you see some brands that you weren't familiar with. I found something tonight. I went to the Goodwill. I had to exchange something before the time went out. I'm going to show it to you because I wasn't planning to do a haul. But and the only reason I knew what this is that I had found this. I had found this brand, and I'd never heard of it. I've only found it once before. It was just some really cool jacket, and it was wool, crepe, and really interesting. And I'm like, what is this thing? And it's this brand. Can you see it? It says Henry Duarte. I've never heard of Henry Duarte before last year when I found a Henry Duarte. Well, I think 2 years ago. I've only seen the brand twice. This is the second time. Henry Duarte, if you look it up, if you Google it, you'll be like, who the heck is Henry Duarte? I didn't know who it was. I just knew it was a quality jacket and the design was amazing. So this jacket is just freaking awesome. I don't know if you can see it. I really, because of the black, it's got this these really different sleeves. They kind of turn, and a little bit of a leg of mutton with drape in the front and like fitted down the front. And the buttons, this is the signature buttons. They aren't round. They've got this weird shape to them. And it's got seaming. And in the back, it's like a little bit of a peplum. Okay. This is a terrible, you can't see it. But if you look up the brand, it's made in China. See, it's like, can't be that exciting. It's made in China. But it's 100% wool gabardine. And this is going to sell probably for a couple $100 to somebody. It's based on style. And whoever knows what this is. And I did an exchange. This is $9.99. And so I didn't pay again for it. But that's an example of what I'd call a niche brand. And I too have to educate myself, but a lot of times if you just want to quickly figure out if something is quality or luxury is where is it made? It's made in China or Vietnam or Korea or Taiwan, probably ain't all that good. Because even Alexander Wang, who makes his stuff in China, it is crap. It is absolute crap. I've bought it. I've watched it fall apart. It is not well made. That's not saying well-made things can't come from China, but when you're looking for luxury, it's made in Italy, it's made in Germany, it's made in France, could be made in Belgium, like Anne de Meulemeister, I think is Belgium. You've got to look for European sizing, like is it a 40, a 42, a 48, a 38, a 36, that kind of thing. These are the clues. If you haven't memorized the quality of fabrics, which I have just from years and years of shopping and being in department stores, it's going to be 100% wool, 100% silk, 100% cashmere, 100% alpaca, or a blend of alpaca and cashmere. If it's got anything that's like wool and acrylic, run. Luxury brands do 100% wool, 100% cashmere. They're not doing wool and acrylic. Those are the people who are saving money and cutting costs. And chances are you too have a wool and acrylic blend jacket in your closet that's pilling and you don't know why. It's the acrylic. Made in Scotland. A lot of this cashmere made in Scotland. You've really got to made in the USA. Made in the USA is still pretty good. If it's vintage made in the USA, it's saying a lot more. But yeah, like Oscar de la Renta that's made in the USA. Donna Karan has been made in the USA. Some designers start in the USA and then as they grow and become really large, end up outsourcing to China and other places because they want to become mass produced and they just can't afford to do it here in the States. But that's another clue. So when you're doing your research, if you can't physically go in a store, going online. If you can go in a store, what I would say to you is find the most expensive store you can go into. Maybe if you're traveling to a big city like Chicago or something, head to the most expensive department store you can find at the most expensive stuff. And when you're in there and you're studying the brands and looking at the price point, you got to study the fabric. You got to touch it. You got to feel it. Because when I'm outsourcing, a lot of times I find something because I saw the fabric. And the fabric I noticed was quality or interesting, whether it was a brocade, whether it was leather, whether it was velvet, whether it was satin. I mean, you can just, like I was at the Goodwill today, and this jacket I just showed you, right next to it was an H&M jacket and some other brand, and you could just tell it was this cheap polyester fabric, right? And you have to train yourself on knowing the difference, and that'll help you when you source and help you identify luxury. I need another break. I've been talking. I did buy some Coke stock the other day. They say buy stock in everything that you use. But I didn't buy it because I drink Coke this time. I bought it because they're rumoring to get into that CBD business, which is so hot right now. It's going to go into all the foods and drinks, just so you know. So that's your stock tip for your day. CBD oils, CBD food, CBD drinks. I mean, this stuff's going everywhere. So that is the latest. So I did invest in that, but not because I'm drinking it. Yeah, got it. So what else about Poshmark? Well, I have been so successful personally. My consignment shop is now getting on Poshmark. We actually have hired someone to manage our entire Poshmark store because I cannot handle it. I literally don't have time. So we're really excited because it's separate from mine, has nothing to do with mine, and it's completely different inventory and very different mix of things. It's not my girl at all over there. It's an older clientele, more conservative, more refined, with lots of Ferragamo, Louis Vuitton, things like that. So anyway, my store is now investing in Poshmark investing time in it because of my personal success with it. And I recommended it to my business partner. And I said, look, we're on eBay and plenty of companies are working on a solution to get our listings out to multiple platforms. Everybody's working on that. Sellhound is one of the main ones working on this. If you've never heard of them, sellhound.com. I can put it in the chat for you. I get nothing for recommending this, just so you know. Just doing it because I'm telling you about it. So these are people, they're in beta right now. And right now they are working on beta to where they can get their listings integrated with eBay. And what Sellhound does is you take the picture, they create the listing that is search engine optimized, etc. And in theory, I saw some earlier information on them. They've since kind of changed their website a little bit, and it doesn't say what I saw earlier. But their goal is to have a platform that can create your listing for, like, let's say $1.50. A listing that you can then, through their portal, submit to every platform, Tradesy, Poshmark, Etsy, eBay, et cetera, et cetera. And the early information that I saw on them showed basically all of the different platforms, like on a wheel, and then them in the center. And so this is something that is going to be a game changer. Now, they're not the only people working on that. I think there'll be a lot of competition in this space. And I think it's another year out, another 12 months, but we all need to get prepared. So until there's a good way to find a company that will push our listings to all the different platforms, I don't think we have much choice other than the labor intensiveness of doing it ourselves. And so we've hired this person to manage our entire Poshmark store, so I don't have to deal with it, creating the listings. And what they're doing is they are taking all the information from our eBay account and copying and pasting it and doing a screenshot of the photos and dropping it into the listing, so that they're not creating a listing from scratch. They are creating a listing, but all the information is already there and taken from what we've already put up on eBay. So that way it saves time. We're not duplicating the work. Some of our inventory is brand new. Some of it's been there, is older. So we thought this would be a good way to test it out. Flippin' Hustler, he added that link to his check it out list. How awesome. What a compliment. So yeah, but yeah, being multi-platform is where it's at. And if I could have my listing on every platform that's out there and I understood how to use every platform that was out there, I would do it. The customer is so different on Poshmark versus eBay. And there were some statistics I heard, no, I didn't hear it firsthand, but somewhere I heard that the used clothing portion of eBay is about 30%. They're busy selling new merch, they're selling car parts, they're selling cars. I mean, they're doing everything. They're selling furniture, but that the used clothing portion was 30% of eBay. Now think about that. The used clothing portion on Poshmark is around 100%. So it's a targeted audience. Etsy, for example, is all about handmade and vintage. Even though they have plenty of other things on there, that was their kind of grounding. So the customer on Etsy is not the customer on Poshmark, and is not the customer on eBay, and is not the customer on Akari. And yet, some people are a customer on every platform. And someone like me, when I'm searching for inventory, I look on every single platform individually, because a Google search is not enough for me. And so I can actually tell the sellers who are on multiple platforms, because I'll see the same item and the same picture. And I'm like, oh, I know that picture. They're on eBay. Here's the same listing on Mercari, big yawn. So I haven't found anything new. But the number of people who are looking on multiple platforms is growing, because there's no good way to see them all at once at this point in time with technology. But anyway, the customer is completely different. The way you sell is different on each platform. And so I, in theory, want to be on every platform, because I can reach the largest number of people. Everybody's not sitting on eBay, and everybody's not sitting on Poshmark, and everybody's not sitting on Etsy. I mean, I rarely go on Etsy. I mean, I'm not the vintage girl. And yet, when I started looking for vintage Moschino, I'm like, well, where am I going to look? Well, I guess I better get on Etsy. And I did find things on Etsy, and I did buy them, and I found some unique things. But I don't like how that platform feels to even be on it. The way they do their advertising and promoted listings, it's cluttered. I don't like it. I don't like the experience of Etsy is the main thing, because you'll get like 4 rows of advertising before you can get to what you're looking for. And so that's a turnoff for me. I prefer eBay the best. And I think it's super clear. I think it's super focused. I'm looking for something that's going to come up, and I like that experience. And I'm not going to be having all these ads in my face to clutter what I'm seeing. Mercari's starting to get cluttered. Depop is okay, but I don't know. My experience on Depop is really, really strange. I had people jerking me around. Like, I was like trying to buy something, and then the woman's like, I had this one experience. She's like, oh, well, you'll need to pay me directly. And you know what? I've decided I want to charge you more for this, and all kinds of crazy stuff. And oh, it's really rare. I was just so strange. I didn't think they were a very professional seller on there, but I have bought a few things on Depop, because again, I'm looking for rare vintage Moschino, so I can't do one search and find it all. So that just is another proof that your customer is siloed like that. So where is your product best placed? And I call it retail triage. You heard it here first. So retail triage is where you're trying to figure out the best, most effective way to sell your item for the most amount of money. So what that means is your item better sold being sent to ThredUp Luxe? Is it better sold at The Real? Is it better sold on your own through eBay? Is it better sold on Poshmark? Is it better sold on Tradesy? Like, there's pluses or minuses in terms of the fee structure. If it's something really expensive, do you really want to give 20% to Poshmark if you can just sell it yourself on eBay for 10% plus PayPal fees? Like, every platform is completely different in their fee structure, and every platform has a different customer. And some platforms, the user experience is not pleasant. There's one out there called Lapri. It used to be called Snob Swap. And I like the platform, and I like the people there, but the user experience is very, very strange. And I don't understand. And they specialize in providing a platform for brick and mortar consignment shops. And this is why it's different, because most brick and mortar consignment shops don't have an online presence. Most of them don't have an eBay store at all. And it's why a lot of them are struggling, because the customer's not coming in the store anymore. The customer's online. So if you're a brick and mortar consignment shop and you don't have an online presence and you're struggling, well, hello. Well, this company, Lapre, helps brick and mortar consignment shops be online. And they have a way to do it that's working. Like they used to bring in people to come in and photograph your things, and you could even hire them to get it up online. But there is some system involved that they only have products from brick and mortar consignment shops. And I think that's really interesting, because the consignment space is one I know about, because I co-own a consignment shop. And the customers, like, our business would have failed if we did not go online from day one. We would have closed our doors. We would have failed. And the only reason we didn't is because we went online on eBay. Is 50% of our business is online. And when we think about growing our business and our consignment shop, we think about not opening up another physical store. That is the last thing we want to do, is have another horrendous overhead. How do we expand without opening up another physical store? And so we've decided what we're going to do now is, okay, we're going to expand to other platforms, really get focused on the kind of inventory I take in, and see if we can't sell this inventory quicker, because it is on multiple platforms, as a way of expanding and growing our business online. So it's all about expanding and growing the online. And so the store becomes more of like a beautiful warehouse, right? So the focus is on the online customer and not the in-store customer. And it becomes a drop-off point, like a luxury drop-off point. And so if people buy in the store, it's great and it's a happy accident. But we're sitting there in the store completely focused on getting everything online and processing the inventory. And it's a game changer. And that's just being honest, that without eBay, we would have failed. And it's almost a happy accident, because I was a reseller before I opened up my consignment shop. I'm like, I know this Liberty software has an eBay integration. I think we should do that. And we knew about our space like 3 months before we could get it. So for 3 months, we're like, I'm figuring out how to use the software. We're figuring out how to set up on eBay. We're figuring out how to get our name on all the social platforms. How do you get it on Google Maps? Figuring all that out, and started listing on eBay before we opened our store. And eBay does not let you just list everything. We started from scratch, so we had to earn our stripes, and we had to earn the right to list more and more inventory at higher price points. And we did that, and eventually over time, we had our ceilings raised so we could sell pretty much as we wanted on eBay. And we worked really hard to get every piece up. And now we have to maintain it. And now we are adding in new platforms, so that now something comes in, I process it, research it, tag it, put it on the processing rack to be photographed for eBay. And then now once it's up, it hits the sales floor, and someone else is now putting that information up on Poshmark. And then now we have the StockX that we're putting our only very limited we have about 15 things going up on StockX, because that's all that they'll take. So that's 3 platforms for one brick and mortar consignment shop. Yeah, Etsy is, Etsy's a publicly traded company. And I didn't know that. I knew eBay was. I actually have eBay stock, and I bought some Etsy stock when I found out they were publicly traded. And Etsy had only been charging about 4%. So why was everyone on Etsy? 4% seller fees. So Etsy just a year or so ago reconfigured their fee structure, and I think they doubled it to around 8, but don't quote me exactly because I don't sell on it. But if you Google it, it'll come up. So their stock went up when I bought it as like around $40, $40. Now it's around $60 a share, 67. And I just think that's so interesting because, one, I didn't know they were public. Two, their sellers were so low all those years. I never knew that. I never even looked into it because I didn't do homemade goods and I didn't focus on vintage, so I didn't think it was a platform for me. But now that I realize that Etsy is trying to grow just like all the rest of them and, face the competition, you got to look at it seriously and say, okay, if all of my inventory doesn't belong there, at least some of it does. For example, First Dibs is a company that we have applied to put some of our inventory on. First Dibs is for the best of the best of the best. First Dibs is for archival pieces. It's for museum quality. And we probably have, I don't know, 20, 30 things that I think would work for First Dibs. But we don't have 100 things and we don't have 1,000 things. And that's to be expected. So as we spread out into multiple platforms, everything isn't going to work. So it's retail triage. What's good here? What's good there? And you just experiment. And we do a lot of experimenting in our business because we've reached that point where we've hit a ceiling. And we're like, how do we break out of the ceiling? We have to do something else. And so we're not going to open up another store right now. Although there's plenty of them to buy everywhere. If you want to buy a consignment shop, there's a lot of them out there and a lot of people struggling because they are not online mostly. So we say, well, how do we expand without having another store? And that's online. And so internally, we're trying to figure out how do we coordinate this so that it's smooth and it's like a well-oiled machine. So our Poshmark store is brand new. As a matter of fact, there's very little up there, but I'm going to send you a link to it just because I can. See if I can get it to come up, and I will send you a link to it. Let me see if I can do that. Let's see if it's working. I'll see if I can get in there. I have to go to another browser because I have 2 of these. Okay. There's a brand new store, so y'all be gentle. But this one we just started for our consignment shop. Let's see, edit, paste. Brand new. Here you go. Oh, it says my feed. Did that work? No, that's not what you want. You don't want my feed. Sorry about that, guys. You do not want my feed. That is the wrong link. Sorry. Let me get rid of that. Remove. Here we go. And so we just started this, and you'll notice the quality of the photos are slightly off. And that's because the person who is working on this is literally doing a screenshot of our photos from eBay and dropping it in and cut and pasting our information out. So feel free to follow us if you want. And the picture on there, that's me and my business partner. And so it's got very little on there, only 35 listings. But yeah, that's what we're doing to grow. So we're going to use the same strategy for Walker Viden as I did for JennieGirl's Closet, which is become an ambassador. be heavily active on the site, outsource the management of the closet to someone else, although I'll still go in there and check it out every day on my own and see how this helps us and see how much of the Poshmark customer we can attract to our inventory. So I've been at this an hour and a half. Flippin' Hustler, I know you're tired because you're on a different time zone. So do y'all have any questions about anything? Because I have gotten off topic quite a bit, but I keep trying to go back to making money on Poshmark. So if y'all have any questions, let me know. If not, I'm going to wave off here from my live show about making money on Poshmark. I do plan to go to Posh Fest, and I plan to go to the next Posh event that comes to the LA area. And one of the things I'm working to organize is one of those Posh parties here in Pasadena. So instead, just trying to get as actively involved as I can. And at first I didn't know what to make of it. I just thought it was all kind of silliness. This is silly. This is, I don't know what this is. I'm too old for this. I'm not a young girl. So it's so different from eBay that I don't know what to make of it. But I decided to master the platform. And $85,000 later, and 85,000 followers later, and having made almost $8,000 in the last 3 months and $8,000 in the 12 months before that, it's paying off. And I love the fact that things are final sale, and it's just very different. But it's working. I'm making money, and so the key is how to consistently make money on Poshmark without. There's a lot of fits and starts. I might sell, a whole bunch of stuff in a day or a couple of days, and then there's just a snooze fest and nothing's happening. And I've heard other people say that having measurements in your listing and having all the information in there so that they don't have to contact you with a question helps them make purchasing decisions more consistently and easily without a break in time to get you to answer a question. And I absolutely think that's true. And so I'm busy working with my assistant to cut and paste all of the sizing information in the description off of eBay and into the Poshmark listing. We've created a Google Docs document, which is becoming our master inventory sheet, so that I know exactly what I have, what I paid for it, where it's listed, how much is it listed, because some of my things are different prices on eBay and Poshmark. And that's because the Poshmark markdown schedule is so aggressive that, 1 minute I listed something for $500 and I'll look up and it's down to like $200. And it's because I took 10% off, and then I did an offer to likers, and then I took 10% off. And like, by the time you do that, that price is inching down and inching down. And so a lot of times my things are much cheaper on Poshmark, and I'm selling some for $50 that, I got priced 3 times the price on eBay. And one time recently I sold this shirt for $50 on Poshmark, and I forgot to take it down from eBay. And then somebody bought it on eBay for $150. And I'm like, wow, I left $100 on the table because I was so focused in participating in the markdown schedule on Poshmark to get things moving that, sometimes you forget that this eBay customer is so different. And at first, I never thought Poshers paid more than eBay customers. I only thought that Poshmark customers bought different things. And over time, I would say they don't pay more than eBayers at all. They pay less in general, with a few key people willing to pay full price. Most of the full price stuff I've sold was not on an offer. They had just swooped in, said, here's $1,200 and left. A lot of them were not also sellers on the site. They were non-sellers. that paid full price for some of these really expensive things. And as I analyze it, I think in general, the eBay customer, because it's global, because you're shipping all over the world, you have a much broader audience. You have people, a much larger group of people that are willing to pay more for things. I think Poshmark is more like, I don't know how to explain it. Poshmark is turn it for less, get rid of it, make someone happy who wants to spend $30 on a blazer for work and move on. I mean, this is a younger, it feels like to me, it may not be, I don't have the stats, but it feels like a younger crowd. It feels like a more trendier crowd, more trendier. My mother would kill me. It's not more trendier, it's more trendy crowd. And it's limited to the United States. And I think the most important thing to remember on Poshmark is it's a growing platform. And if you're only selling on Poshmark, you're really limiting your sales. But I think it's important to grow with Poshmark as they grow and get as much inventory as possible up on there so that the minute they hit the switch that they're going to go into another country, that's going to be payday for all of us. Let me tell you. I know plenty of people who are in other countries looking to source things and they can't buy them because Poshmark does not ship to their country. And so I think the most important thing you could do is try to get as much as your inventory up on Poshmark as possible so that when they go to Canada, and if it's Canada to US and not Canada to Canada, you're already ready. When they hit that go button, not only will, in theory, they be able to buy from us, we'll be able to buy from them. So huge sourcing opportunities both ways. And so to prepare for that, you've got to list, because you're going to have a whole, imagine all the eyeballs of a country on your store. I mean, that's crazy. So we're really underestimating the power of where Poshmark is headed. And we've got to prepare ourselves by, I don't think the only thing we'll have to do is just list more. You got to get as much up there as possible. And I have tons of inventory that is not up on Poshmark and tons that is not up on eBay. And that's because as a stylist, I have tons of inventory. Like I have probably 300-400 pieces of Moschino here and only about 15 are listed anywhere. And so to buy it, you've got to come see me in person. Well, I've been struggling and thinking about, well, where do I want these things to be? Do I want them to be on First Dibs? Do I want them to be on eBay? Where do I want them to be? So I've got to figure that out. But what I do want is to make them available for sale all at once, and sort of like a campaign where I can push a button and 300 pieces of Moschino hits the marketplace at one time. So I'm trying to figure that out. See what makes sense to me. It might be something like a First Dibs that I do, because that's where people are looking for the rarest of the rare go. But they're also on eBay, and eBay's shipping all over the world. So important thing to remember. So yeah, I was winding it up and I ended up talking some more. Anyway, my hair is like everywhere. Sorry about that, guys. Misha Renee, well, thank you so much for listening. I got a lot of info bottled up in me, and I don't know how to get it all out, and I'm not going to be able to get it all out at once. I mean, everything from reselling to styling to opening and running a consignment shop. I had a very different career. I'm a professional charity fundraiser. I work for President Carter. I work for the Rockefeller families. I was in New York for 16 years. I've been all over the world working on projects to help people in the world and working with philanthropists. And so I've had a very different career. I've also had a career as a singer, as a songwriter, as a performer. I just started a career as a stand-up comedian that I was starting just when I left New York 4 years ago. So in fashion, though, is where I'm earning my money right now. My Poshmark income is more than my songwriting royalties at the moment. and it's higher than my record sales royalties. So yeah, so that's where the money is right now. So I've done a lot of different things, and but yeah, and I even worked at my first job out of college was at a stock brokerage firm, which is why I'm not afraid to be involved on the stock market. And that's kind of where I learned how to do research, secondary research. I worked with financial analysts, writing research reports on buy and sell stocks, and IPO papers and things like that. Red herrings, they used to call them, or they still call them. So it's interesting. The philanthropy work ties into working for the richest people in the world, i.e. the people who buy luxury brands, dealing with consigners and consumers. The stock brokerage information research comes into the research that I do and continue to do on brands. And being creative just helps me with my branding and think about unique ways to set myself apart. Now, one last thing I will share. I just remembered this. So I run a whole bunch of Facebook groups, and there's one called For the Love of Consignment, Resale, and Retail. That's where I put all of the information that I can find on reselling, consignment, Poshmark, eBay, Amazon. And basically, because I worked in a brokerage firm and I had to do research all the time, I was doing my own research and looking for a place to put it. So basically, this is a Facebook page of about 1,000 people, and it's all news articles, and you can comment on them. And it's everything about Louis Vuitton Supreme collaborations, the latest platforms, what's happening in the retail industry, Amazon, eBay, Poshmark, Tradesy, Rent the Runway is just starting a new kids division. That's in there. It's the Real. So if you join this Facebook page, it's free. I don't believe in charging anything for that. I also have a Facebook page called JennieGirl Loves Poshmark. And this one is much smaller. It's brand new. There isn't a lot of stuff on here yet. But anything related to Poshmark, I like to put in here. And the executives are getting interviewed all the time. And so I like to find those articles and read for myself, where they're going, where they're headed, and really stay on top of this industry. This industry is so exciting to me. This is the most interesting part of retail right now. And I can tell you, as someone who's had I've never had, I did have one full-time retail job for about 3 months, but it's always been part-time because I love fashion and found it a good way to supplement my income so I could buy clothes. But what's interesting is I feel like retail workers are not respected. And I always struggled with the low pay, the hours where you had to work around holidays, and really the lack of respect and growth opportunities in retail, high turnover. And I just feel like when you tell somebody you work in a retail store, they just don't understand what that is. But I feel like as resellers and consignment owners and stylists that we're on another side of perception of retail. And suddenly retail is sexy and it's the latest trend, and resale in e-commerce is, multi-billion-dollar businesses. And suddenly it's tech and it's technology and it's Silicon Valley and it's investments and it's going public on the stock market like the Real. So suddenly resale is sexy and it's hot and it's timely. And I have been in retail off and on for so many years where I felt like people just didn't respect the people who were in there. Not only people respecting each other like fellow workers, but management's, respect for the people that were working for them. And I remember one time that I had to quit a retail job because I was working at Loehmann's back room. Of course, I'm at Loehmann's back room, just part-time, just for fun, just to buy clothes when I was in New York. But I knew I was going to London for Christmas. And they told me when I took the job that I had to work through Christmas or I'd have to quit. And so I remember going in there going, I'm going to London. And I knew I was going anyway, but I'm going to London and to see my boyfriend and, I need to be off. And they said, you have to quit. You have to quit because you're not going to work for Christmas. And I'm like, I really have to quit. And they said, yeah. I said, well, I know you told me that. So I had to quit my job because they couldn't bear to be without me for Christmas. And it's one of the things in retail that is mind-blowingly off is that they expect everyone to work for the holidays. And what's so crazy about that is that for every person who would give anything to be off for the holidays, you got about 5 more who'd be willing to take those hours and work double time on Christmas Day, But they refuse to be flexible with you. And so there's a lack of respect when you are forced to quit a job because you will not work for Christmas. And so I feel as resellers and people in this industry that we have somehow overcome this perception, that we have been able to add some standards back into our life and the perception of what we do, that we can take off at Christmas, Thanksgiving, turn our stores off, do whatever we need to do to have a life without some silly manager telling us we can't do it and some terrible store policy insisting that we do something that we don't want to do. And that's my biggest gripe in retail. The different times I've been in it is the lack of respect for people who want to have time off at the holidays. And, we have that control being self-employed as resellers. We have that control with stores we can put in vacation mode. And we have that control where somebody who, seems half as qualified as we are telling us what to do, And it's the ultimate challenge in retail to put into play all those things that you knew in your head you could do better than your boss. And if you can't do it better in this environment, you can't do it better at all. Because this is the ultimate test. All right, you think you're better than your retail manager? All right, go on out there and do it yourself. Okay, come on, Poshmark and eBay. Let me show these people what I know how to do because they're not going to let me do it here. And so it's the ultimate test of what your true skills are in retail. You're a manager of the men's warehouse. Wow. I bet you got some stories, Flippin' Hustler, you manager, you making all those employees work for the holidays. I love my life. I do too. And it's such a, right before I went full time, and this I'll tell you, when I left New York, I had stopped doing any of my charity consulting and any of that. And I just had put it all aside and I was a little bit burned out. And I'm like, I'm tired of saving the world right now. And I just want to do something else. And so I ended up being a merchandiser through a company called Winston Retail. And Winston Retail hires merchandisers to go inside retail stores and work for brands to do their setups, whether it was Timberland or Calvin Klein or Reebok or whoever it might be. So they're one of a number of these companies who do it. You should look it up if you've never looked it up. So I was working for Winston Retail, and I was working for the brand Jones New York and the brand Timberland at different times, and I was inside of the stores doing that. And I was doing that job just before I left New York. And then my project, you might know that Jones New York went out of business and took all of they closed, I don't know how to explain it. They no longer sold to stores like Macy's, that they were done. I mean, the brand was gone. Someone bought them out. they were going to go online only. And I was the last group of people to work with that brand. As a matter of fact, if you want any Jones, New York, I've got about 50 pieces of it left from when I worked there. But anyway, right before I left New York, I was in this retail merchandising segment, and it was really fascinating to get on the merchandising side and learn that every single piece is thought out, planograms where every piece of merchandise has been specifically placed on the floor. There's no accident when a coordinate group is together and where that coordinate group is in relation to other pieces on the brand. Dressing the mannequins and making sure everything was perfectly pinned. So I had that piece of work just before I left New York, and I was really moving away from charity fundraising, and I was doing that. But I came to, because my father had died and I had some inheritance money, I didn't have to immediately get a job, but I wanted to get a job. And so I thought, well, let me just get a retail job. And the company I was working for didn't have any openings. They didn't have any work in California. So I applied to work at Bloomingdale's. So I got a job at Bloomingdale's, and it was full time. And I was commuting from Pasadena because I had moved from New York, and I didn't understand where Pasadena was in relation to the Beverly Center. I did not understand how far that was. I said, oh, well, I'll just take the subway. I've been riding on the subway for 16 years. How hard could it be? So I took the subway from Pasadena into the Beverly Center every day. It took over 2 hours to get in there. And I would go to my department, and I would, excuse me, my chair is, I've got my chair on wheels with me. It's like rolling. So I was working in the Beverly Center, and I was working in the ladies' dress department. And so anyway, the point is I was commuting over 2 hours a day on public transportation because I had not bought a car because I wasn't sure I was going to stay here. So I didn't want to buy a car and be saddled with that if I was just going to fly on back to New York. But anyway, so I'm working in Bloomingdale's. I'm commuting 2 hours each way on public transportation. I'm taking a subway, transferring to another train, and then taking a bus all the way to the Beverly Center every day. It was nightmarish. So anyway, so I was doing that, and so I'm in the Bloomingdale's and I'm doing what I do, and there's all the typical gossip with salespeople and people fussing. Did you clean out the fitting room? Or, oh my God, I had to pull a dress out of the fitting room because you didn't do it for your customer, and just this craziness, right? A lot of lack of respect among the employees to each other, people very different ages. You had young people, young and in college, to, women retirement age. They're trying to service all of that. And the commute was brutal. It was brutal to be on my feet for hours at a time. It was just brutal. And the pay after everything was said and done is, I think I was losing money being there because of the commute cost, then eating lunch out every day, just being totally exhausted. And so while I was doing that, I had my resale store. And I sold a pair of boots, Chanel boots, never forget it, for about $4,250 for one pair of boots. And the profit on those boots, I think I ultimately had paid about $1,200 for those boots. So I'm thinking, I'm not counting in fees, so like a $3,000 profit. So I made more money in a day than I had made, I think, in a month, working at Bloomingdale's, and or the 2 months I'd been there. And I had my, who's now my business partner, say to me, what are you doing at Bloomingdale's? Why are you not working resale full time? And I said, well, because I'm scared. Because whenever I don't have any money, I take it out of my inheritance, and it's getting lower and lower. And then when it's gone, what am I going to do? He says, no, you should try it. You should be a full-time reseller. What are you doing, killing yourself, going into Bloomingdale's where you're not being treated well, where you're having problems? Like the manager who hired me, literally, she hired me while I was still in New York. When I moved to California, she had already left for another job. So I went to a job where I had no manager, and then they eventually replaced her. And, so the person who managed me didn't even hire me. It's crazy. So I don't have a good answer for it. But anyway, it was important for me to be encouraged to quit that job. And I quit Bloomingdale's after 2.5 months with no job lined up, nothing but dwindling inheritance, an enthusiastic friend who said I should do this, and one sale for $4,000 that gave me proof that there was something that I knew about things that were undervalued, and something that I knew about selling luxury items. And so I did it. And it was terrifying. I was thrilled. I was thrilled to leave. I was thrilled to leave. But then I had let my safety net go, right? So, because no matter how bitchy the salespeople were, or how much drama was going on in a little dress department, you still got your check every other Friday, right? And so there's security in all of that. But it's kind of a false security, because, you can always be let go at any time. They can make you leave if you don't want to work a holiday. But there's some sort of security in that. But to give that up, that guaranteed money, whatever little money that was, and then say, all my income now is self-derived. I have to self-motivate myself. There's no manager over me that I can bitch about telling me how to do my job. So it's the ultimate test to what you know and your ability to self-motivate yourself for success. And there's still huge gaps in how my income flows. Like the challenge that I have now is that there's so many peaks and valleys that I'm trying to figure out, how do I even it out? Because there are times when I get all this money, and then I'm like, oh, I pay everything. And I'm like, and then like if sales drop off, I'm like freaking out a little bit. And then if I don't have any sales for a couple of days, I'm really getting worried. And then something will happen, and then they start up again. So I think for me, is someone who does this full time, and I do draw from my consignment shop portion of the profits. I do draw from my reselling, is to find some sort of way to even out the cash flow and put some consistency in it. And that's why I'm trying to think of everything I can do to increase the sales and keep them consistent. Because I'd rather sell something every day than a whole bunch of things and then nothing. It's stressful on the psyche. And even though I know more people are coming to shop, it's there's no one but myself and my sales reports to keep me encouraged, right? So it's very emotional thing, staying motivated and working full time. There's no safety net unless you yourself have created one. And my inheritance, let's just say it dwindled way on down. And so I don't even have that anymore. So at this point, I'm left with kind of whatever's inside of me to keep me going, to keep me motivated, to keep me selling, to keep me listing, to keep me excited about it. And so there's a price that you pay for being self-employed, for not having a manager over you. It's a very emotional thing, but this is what startup business is. This is what entrepreneurship is. It's a lot of uncertainty. And those first 3 years that they tell you in your business, there's a reason for that. Because if we didn't have a 5-year lease, forced to see ourselves through the 3rd year, I'm not sure we'd have pushed through. But we had a 5-year lease, and we knew we had to push through. And we're on the other side of some of the hardest things I've ever done. And what makes it difficult is not that is you're growing something from scratch. And when we opened up our consignment shop, no one entered the door for 4 days. And I thought, what have we done? And our first sale was to some young boy, because we had menswear when we first opened. Our first sale was like a pair of pants to a young boy celebrating his birthday at this restaurant on the corner from our shop. And I'm like, okay, our first customer's a guy. But we didn't buy a business. We started from scratch because we're just naive that way. So all of it is persisting through the uncertainty, persisting through the cash flow. And we made it. And I don't know how we did it. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. And yet, again, there's no boss, there's no guarantees, there's nobody, all the consigners get paid before we do. The landlord gets paid before we do. And we haven't hired any workers. We don't have any employees, but we've outsourced to contractors from time to time to help us grow. But it's still better than someone saying to you, Jennie, you have to quit because it's Christmas. No, I don't. I don't have to do that. Flippin' hustlers. Let's see. Jones, New York, 3-piece suit. Sweet. You were dressed to the nines. I'll bet you had to be dressed up every day at the Men's Warehouse. Absolutely. But I bet you got a good deal on your clothes. That's for sure. Internal motivation. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, someone said to me the other day, I said, I love when people come visit me at my place because then I clean up. And I told one of my friends, would you come visit me? I really need to clean up my place. And he goes, oh, you're externally motivated. And I went, what? I hadn't heard that since college. And then I remembered this class where they talked about internal motivation versus external. And being a reseller is definitely internal motivation. There is no external motive. It's internal, absolutely. And yet I'm a good external motivated person. So you see where the struggle is. That's why building a network of like-minded people here on YouTube is important. It is important because we're all going, look, anybody who tells you this is easy is got a poker face, It's not. But it's not hard either. It's not that it's hard. It isn't that the work is difficult. The challenge really is cash flow management, inventory management, and growing your business and giving some sort of confidence in the cash flow. Because, our ability to take money out of our company is directly related to how much did we sell, right? You didn't sell anything, you're not taking anything, right? So we have had a natural growth path because all businesses that are growing, it's a slow, steady, right? That's why the growth online is the quickest thing that we can do to keep growing. It's not more warm bodies in the store, it's the online growth, right? So that's why we're focused there. But yeah, this is a very different way to work. But I like it, and I hope so badly some of those people at Bloomingdale's have seen our awards or read some of the articles and be like, yeah, I told you, told you I knew what I was doing. Even though there's no outlet. there's really no outlet for a lot of skills like this in a regular retail environment. There's just no outlet for it. There's no opportunity to utilize it. The way these stores are structured, the management structures, you're basically a salesperson or you're not. You're on commission or you're not, and that's it. Like there's really no outlet there, unfortunately, unless you're part of the merchandising department or part of the events department, you know. So yeah, I've been on here 2 hours. Wow, and there's 4 people watching with 4 thumbs up. Man, I have scored tonight. I scored. Anyway, I don't know who's still listening, but I have talked a lot. I got a lot to say, and I appreciate you listening. And yeah, so I think I'm going to call it quits there. I've got so much I could be telling, but nobody's going to watch 2-hour video. So so there you go. This is Jennie Walker, and my channel. I guess I got to call it my channel. This is my channel. Welcome to my channel, Jennie Girl's Closet. I gotta welcome to my channel. I really don't even know how to address people because people always call like, "Hey, you guys," and all this stuff. I really don't know what to say, but I am appreciative of everyone watching, and welcome to my channel. I hope to grow it more. Thank you for spending a Friday night with me, and for some of you, it's a Saturday morning, like Flippin' Hustler. Flippin' Hustler was live 4 hours Monday. People will watch. That is really cool. Yeah, I like catching you sometimes because you're just doing what you do. It's like a nanny cam. Oh, but anyway. So yeah, thank you for listening. I've got a lot to offer, and hopefully people will subscribe. I mean, I really want to. I have a lot of plans, but I'm not going to tell you what they are because I've learned it's better to tell someone what you are doing and not what you're gonna do. You gotta tell people when it's done. So I got plans, but I'm not telling you what they are. But I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate so much that I'm saying anything of value to you. If you want to be in touch, feel free to reach out to me. I'm on all the social media. I have a website, Jennie Girl's Closet. And if you have not subscribed, I hope you will. And if you like anything of what I've said, please give it a thumbs up. Feel free to comment down below. I'm saying that because all those people with all those subscribers always say comment down below. So please feel free to leave a comment. If you have any questions, things you want me to go over in a future video, please leave them on there. And if you've not hit the little bell icon, please do, and then you'll be alerted when I go live. I have no regular schedule. I get on here when I can, and that's it. Bye, Flippin' Hustler. You're so awesome to invite people to the chat. I'm so glad to see you here, and I hope to catch you live, and I hope to see what you come up with for your logo, and that would be great. And for anyone else who's watching, this is Jennie Walker with Jennie Girl's Closet, and we'll see you the next time. Bye.